Hi, everyone. Welcome to Got Something For Ya. I absolutely love seeing all this conversation in the live chat. Us regulars with no life are here every week. Hey, I guess, Amy, count us in too, because we're here every week as well. And of course, we are joined by a very special guest from Survivor 45. We have the one and only Sifu joining us today.
Woo!
So I
Thank you.
what you might not know, everyone, is before we went live, I asked Sifu the question of like, what's it like with 45? Now we're at 47. Just like, is it weird seeing new people going through this? So Sifu, if you can share a little bit
Yeah.
more about your experience post the game.
Yeah, for sure. So to answer that directly, I have zero anxiety and stress now watching these seasons because it's not 46, which still kind of stressed me out, but 47 kind of I'm an alumni, right? I get to sit back, I get to chill and watch it and really like digest it as a fan again. And that I think that really helped me enjoy this premiere and the second episode. So a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even imagine. Phil and I, we come from the fan perspective. We can only speculate what a good move is and what,
Yeah,
what people should have done. We're very much from the comfort of our own
sure.
couches. So I do wonder, has something changed between from when you were a fan of the show to after you played? Has your perspective changed at all?
1,000%.
Mm.
1,000%. Yeah, I was sitting there during the COVID times whenever we had a big shutdown and I had nothing to do. And I binged probably just not healthily, Survivor. And I mean, at the time I was just like, okay, every single episode, I'm not gonna miss a second. And it was great because I was like, whoa, this great journey. And I people think I'm crazy, but I started with season 40. Uh, yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So, and it was weird because I enjoyed that. I actually enjoyed that because then I went back and I was
Yeah.
like, well, I know who wins, but let me see their journey. Let me see like how they got there. And so I went straight to 28 with Tony Vlachos and fell in love. And then from there it was like you couldn't, if you walked in my house, Survivor's on. But it did, as a fan, change when I got on the island, because as soon as I jumped over the barge on 47, or sorry, 45, I was like, this is real life and it's not stopping. Like
Mm.
it was ejected from my reality into another reality. I'm no longer on the couch. I'm no longer saying that was a stupid move. You know, I am injected in this reality. So I was like, man, this is a different take, and I soaked it in as much as I could. So
I'm sure it's a lot more nerve-wracking imagining people telling you that you're making the wrong move
I know.
versus being the one on the couch, being able to tell everyone else that they're doing it. Am I right?
100%, yeah. And to that point, like, wow, you in the moment don't think about that person or yourself even saying that's probably the wrong move. And so that's why we saw all those idols in 46. I know we're talking 47, but
Mm.
46,
Hmm.
we saw all those idols going home because you're not thinking about that person on the couch. You're literally in another reality and you have to live that. So what I always like to tell people is like, the fans get the beautiful 90 minutes, but we get the grueling 24 hours,
Yeah.
It's like,
I
you
I
thought
know,
like
about that
that.
too. Yeah. But also, it's like we have to wait the week for the next episode. You
I
experience
know,
it the next day or
I
right after
know.
Tribal. Amy has a really great question, Sifu, because I'm curious about this too. But have you recognized any of the beaches or like where the challenges are held from when you were on the show?
The first challenge, so that's what's funny is like I get to sit back and I love that sort of stuff because I'm like, oh, good, I was on that beach, or oh, that was Bello, or that was, and so yes, I do recognize them, and I think that's like another little cool thing as a contestant is you get to connect to those moments, and you're like, oh, this beach is barren. They have no coconuts. They have no papayas. It's like because there's certain beaches that will have more coconut or more breadfruit or more papaya, and it makes a difference. Like it
Hmm.
seriously does. So Reba Beach didn't have much papaya, So when we merged, they brought their papaya over, and we're like, "What is this?" Like it was like dessert, you know. So I love going back and now seeing where they're playing at for sure.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Yeah.
which tribe from this season is on Reba Beach? Do you know?
I don't know that yet. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a
Do
great
you?
segue. Oh yeah.
I was just gonna say. I mean, week to week, do you feel like you're trying to figure that out, or is it more of a like?
I haven't even tried. I haven't tried for 47. I've actually, well, besides the challenge, I just remember that because it was a challenge I didn't do great at. So I was like, oh, okay, I remember that beach. But I've actually tried to sit back. Yeah, those things they stick with you. I've actually tried to sit back and just more of a fan for 47, just to see if I'm tainted, you know, like can I actually watch the show as a fan? And I still will appreciate this is Reba, that's Bella, that's Lulu, but you know, I want to sit back and just enjoy it a little bit more like that.
That's great to hear. I feel like there's two ways you can look at least what I can imagine being someone
Right.
who's been on the game and then coming out on the other side. It makes me feel like it's going to go one of two ways. It's either going to strengthen your love for the TV show or it could obliterate whatever love you had for it. I mean, Phil, I don't know
Yeah.
about you, but that's one of the things that scares me about possibly auditioning for the show. It's just like, will I still enjoy it after
That's
as a fan? Have you thought about this?
Yeah, I think it's funny. I mean, there is definitely what I've always thought about is the fact that there are so many engaged past players. And I think that speaks really well to the show. Because
yeah.
I think that if it was, God forbid, if everyone comes back with stories of, oh, they told me to say this, oh, this is all make believe, this wasn't real, I think that you would see a lot less engagement from past players. And that's just
Right.
not the case for Survivor. Survivor players love Survivor, even after they go out there. So I think that it really speaks well to the show, and I mean, we'll talk about all the players even some more here, but having Asia on, a Survivor podcaster, sort of breaking that wall between
Exactly.
people who are able to speak on it and actually show up on the show. I think it's actually really good for the show's culture overall.
Yeah.
Mhm. I'm so
I
glad Asia's having this experience too, because it's like look, like one of us, you know, we've always had
right.
super fans on the show, but it's just like so great to see what is this well-known Survivor podcaster going to do
Right.
now that she's on the island.
Mm-hmm.
She's probably gonna come back on and be like, "Hey, man, I didn't know anything what I was talking about, so we're gonna restart this whole podcast." No, but I like Phil's point, you know, because this whole like coming into that as a fan, like now because she's been really into that world and coming into it as a fan, you do switch. Like you don't that fandom. Like obviously in a challenge, if you need to pull that out to remember certain things for puzzles and stuff like that, it'll
Mhm.
come out then. But living that experience changes your entire view. So when we leave the island, they like, and to Phil's point, the reason that people continue to talk about it, they give us counselors that we can talk to and mental health help, and I think that is what made the difference in us continuing to love this show, because not everybody had a great experience out there,
Mhm.
but even those people that had a bad experience still are like, man, I love Survivor. My experience just wasn't great because I felt it as a real life experience, and it was hard to separate reality from reality, kind of, really, if we're being honest. And that was such a beautiful thing. I realized coming home, I'm like, oh, we get counseling or help if we need it, and just to categorize the world around you and to help
Mhm.
understand what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you see the Kelly Wentworth, coming on TikTok and Instagram saying, this show or this or that, because she has valid points from a player, a fan perspective, and a good, healthy mindset, because the show takes care of us. So I love it. Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
seriously, I cannot imagine them leaving folks to their own devices after such an intense experience. So I'm very happy to hear that they're taking good care of their players.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And is it through the airing of the episodes too?
So, are you asking me that?
Yeah. Do they offer that support through the airing of the
So
episodes?
there is a psychiatrist or therapist rather, if on hand, and if you seriously need something, she will step in. But it's or she or he will step in, but it is not, something that you get to go to, like
Hmm.
just for
Mhm.
leisure. So it's at the very extreme stakes there.
That's fascinating. All right, good
Yeah,
to know.
yeah.
Why don't we get into this week's episode 2? I've just been loving it more and more as these episodes go on. I'm so happy. It feels like the storytelling is fantastic, and I think the best place to start is with Andy
Okay.
and this whole interaction with his fellow tribe mates, where they are now going, I would say, overboard to make him feel welcomed and seen. Phil, I saw you
Sifu,
shaking your head.
I definitely have thoughts, but I thought, hey, let's let our guest start off. Sifu, what do you think about this?
Sure. Great on their end from a player standpoint to uplift and support an individual. Whether Andy knows it's over the top or not is, I think, almost irrelevant, because they're responding to something that was an issue and they immediately corrected it.
Mhm.
So if they did not do that, I believe Andy would feel isolated, which could cause chaoticness, which could cause him to do something crazy that would change the entire game or leave the game, whatever. Like, there's so many variables. So I think they're doing that because also he could be an ally, even if he is the interesting one on the group that maybe not everyone gets along with. I enjoyed it because it's like, wow, they immediately responded. They're making them feel great. But yes, it is a little bit, a little bit over the top. When I was out there and cracking coconuts, people were just worried about getting a drink of it. So it wasn't. I wasn't too worried about that from my perspective. But as a gameplay, it's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, I first of all, I love this scene. I want to start off by saying that I
Great scene.
absolutely loved this scene.
Definitely.
And I think it's so funny. It speaks to, I think, real life, man. I can say that I have been in these scenarios before where you are sort
Yeah.
of talking about, you're like, man, I wish that you guys did this more. I wish that you did that more. And then maybe the next instance of that exact thing, it is played up in such a large dramatic fashion that, like, at least for myself, I then feel silly because I'm like, all right, guys, I this was bothering me, but like, you don't have to do all this because now you're making me feel weirder about the whole thing. And
Right.
I don't know, and I don't necessarily know if Andy felt that, but it definitely felt like oh wow, now we are especially catering to Andy, and you could tell by the
Right.
confessionals, different people had different thoughts.
Right.
I know that, for one person on the tribe, in particular, they thought that they also caught wind of this. They thought that it was very silly. They were not appreciative of it. So, what did you think, Matthew?
I mean, I don't. Here's what my question is, because I want to just go back. They showed the reaction to Andy opening a coconut. And so my thought was, okay, well, this is the same activity that Andy quoted as his reasoning, his evidence for them not liking him, because John did it, got a big reaction. He did it, did not get a big reaction. So because it's the same activity, and now he's starting to get this, I kind of felt like I kind of I agree with Sifu. I think it's absolutely the right call, and the right thing to do is to
Oh
make
yeah.
Andy feel seen and a part
Right.
of the tribe. And we do see that ends up benefiting one of the players a little bit later in the episode. But at the same time, I was like, is it not obvious? I was like, was it not obvious? And again, they might have cut the Andy with the coconut with this from something else, but I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, it definitely seemed over the top. Go ahead, Sifu.
Yeah, so I think Andy's perspective in this is, so imagine, like, both of you, Matt and Phil. Imagine you are with two other best friends of yours, okay? And and you see them do this really cool handshake. You've never seen it before. And then they just kind of like dap you up or shake your hand. And I feel like Andy hyper focuses on that cool handshake that he's not a part of, and he doesn't realize that it doesn't. It's just that's their connection. This is our connection, but he wants a part of that other connection,
Yeah.
and he doesn't know how to seamlessly insert himself to that. And I think what Sam, and I might be getting ahead of myself, but I think what Sam initially is going to try to do is that Caleb kind of Emily thing, where he brings him into that fold to where it's like, you are a wild card at the moment, but I believe there is some usefulness here. So, kind of tame that perspective of his.
Yeah. And I'll say extending past that moment there and sort of getting to what we're looking at here, I think that this relationship is going to prove incredibly, incredibly valuable. And I really like how the both of them are playing it. I was thinking back on how I podcasted about the premiere, and I actually feel like I was maybe a little bit extra harsh on our friend Andy. And so I do want to walk that back a little bit, because I think that with a beat of time, and you said it yourself, Sifu, it's so easy to be sitting on the couch and be like, this guy's losing his mind. Can't he get a grip? Versus being like, hey, like perhaps he didn't spend day to day in his normal life living in a jungle where people are lying to him. And maybe he just needs a beat of time to like get comfortable. And I think that, look, even now, the man is not fully comfortable. He's still making a little bit of mistakes, but I think that he is able to see the value in this relationship here. And so kudos to Andy and kudos to Sam, who has a plethora of options in him understanding that despite him not being the most popular person on the tribe, Andy is a very good option for him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you couldn't have said it better. But this is the perspective I bring from the contestant standpoint is like perspective is truly reality out there. And so regardless of how honest Sam is about this connection, Andy is picking up on it at his, at its highest level, where it's like, oh, Sam could be my number one potentially. Like he's probably thinking those things. And that's great, because any information Andy gets in the future, if he gets far enough, can really circle back to Sam and potentially save him, help him, or hurt him potentially, but more positive than negative.
Yeah, it was great to see Sam figure out this opportunity with Andy. And I want to read from Minnows. We didn't get any confessionals from Andy thinking it was super fake, so that was interesting. It was. And it's been less than 24 hours since Andy's intense Matt chat, so he's probably not thinking as much about the fakeness and just appreciating that they're including him. Minnows, I agree with you. And I would say what the comments before, I just want to clarify, were less about Andy's reaction to them including him and more about their social game, Annika, Rachel, and Sam in that moment, sort of critiquing what was going on there. Because I agree. And here's the thing. I do think that they all really like Andy as a person. Like I see that, I don't see any major disrespect there in terms, or someone correct me if I'm wrong, if there was a confessional or something, but I do think it was just a matter of how are we going to navigate the game with Andy still here.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily fully points to the not liking him, but I do want to call out the confessional again. Toxic boyfriend. That's not necessarily positive, but if you throw up Amy's comment here, I think Amy's comment is exactly what I'm pointing to. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you are the least respected 100%. Or most respected on a tribe. A vote is a vote at tribal. And to your your earlier point, Sifu, in a weird way, God forbid this pairing gets outed at some point, I think that it is going to be far worse for Sam than Andy. Andy is 100%. In a safer place in this, because think about it. If the girls find out that these two have been working together, they're all going to feel slighted by who? By Sam. They're not going to feel slighted by Andy. Yep. Andy they don't feel like they have that deep connection with Andy. They do with Sam. So they're now going to feel like, wow, Sam lied to us. Hey, Andy, come on in here. We're going after this guy. And I think Andy, smart enough player, I think he's happy to work with anyone. I think if he's getting by another day, he's going to go that way. So I'm really excited to see how this is going to play out. Yeah. Really excited.
Yeah. And Phil, you
100%.
mentioned the importance of, and Amy mentioned this too, the importance of Andy's vote. And I think we
Yes.
see this in the next coming scene where everyone's looking for the idol, right? Like Sam and Andy are back at camp. Everyone else is looking for the idol. But then when Sam goes to the bathroom, Andy decides to take the opportunity. He has to convince himself to do it, but goes and finds the beware advantage only for Minnows, you're correct, Andy to put the beware advantage away and say, I'll come back later when I really need it. Thoughts on this? I will say we haven't quite seen someone try this, at least not to my usually people just take it and go right into the thing right away. So it was interesting to see this sort of play out, especially knowing what happens to that beware advantage later.
Yeah. So I'm going to take a step in this direction, but take you guys back a little bit. So in my season, Austin found an idol on Reba Beach, and in his confessional, he says, "I'm not going to leave this here. Sifu will be here the next day, and he'll have this." It's almost verbatim what he said. And when I saw this scene, I immediately went back to that moment because he's right. It's what literally happened in this moment. People are searching for idols, and whatever the cameras show, it might show someone searching more than others, but every single person is looking. Even if you're just, oh, I'm going to carry some wood. Well, are you just going to look at your feet walking? No, you're gonna look around and might even scuffle. So everyone's looking. So to my point is, you should never put the advantage back. Even if you're not taking it right away, you should hide it, put it in your pocket, read it down the trail, and really think about if you want that beware because you lose a vote. And I think Andy just got overwhelmed and he didn't understand how to process that in that moment, and that's why we saw what we saw.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Question, Sifu, when you find a beware advantage, is it like right then and there is where you have to open it up and read it,
Yeah.
or are you allowed
Yeah.
to take a few steps?
You can obviously take a few steps away, or if you need to run down the path, if someone is near, you can go. But if you're isolated, you should stay there, read it, and get the advantage. But I do want to also say it's a needle in a haystack, and I know it's so crazy when you guys see. Like it seems like it's just someone put it there just a second ago and they just walked up and grabbed it. But I mean, I looked for idols for days only for Austin to find it, like literally. Like I was searching way harder, and then Austin found it, like I want to say day 2 or 3, I cannot remember exactly, but it's, or sorry, day 3. And it's crazy because I walked past where he found it like 3 times, and to me it was just a tree. I mean, I don't have a marker. I can't mark individual trees, so it's so
Right.
interesting. It's so interesting. So this is truly a hard thing to do, is to find the idol. I just wanted to give you guys that perspective from the player standpoint.
Yeah, and I forget who said it in the episode, but someone definitely said that exact thing in the episode where they were
Yeah.
like, look, when you're watching from home,
Yeah.
it is, again, I think that there was I think there was such a highlight in this episode of things, or maybe since the start of the season, things seeming a lot more simple when you're sitting on your couch versus when you get out there. Surprise, surprise, go figure, right?
Yeah.
It's just wild. Yeah, I mean, y'all all have a nice chunk of land that you're allowed to traverse. It's they are hiding these things, like they said. It's about yay big, and the amount of in brownish, and they're hiding it. Like I think it's really, really interesting to see what happened with this idol particularly. Andy finding it, putting it back 2 hours later. It's found again.
So what would you guys do if you found a beware advantage?
Well, here's the thing. Andy is on the bottom, and whether or not he realizes it, I think it would have been a great opportunity just to say, I'm doing it. At this point, there's nothing to lose. Everyone thinks that he's going to go idol searching regardless.
Right.
So I just see it as an opportunity. Plus, I disagreed with the fact that opening it when you need it is best,
Oh,
because you still have to anticipate. And as we know with the Beware advantage, they come with a task and you have to get that task done in a certain amount of time. Otherwise, you do not have your vote going into it. So
mhm.
that's what I sort of thought. I thought he
Yeah,
should have opened it.
yeah, 100%. And from a player standpoint, like a piece of paper, a parchment, anything can be used to your advantage, even if you don't have anything. And so I, and again, I don't know if he was thinking in that regard, but you can fake out, like I made fake idols to divert a vote on me, and let's go to J Maya, not Sifu. And but you can utilize those things, even the day one idols too, or sorry, the one time idols. You can still have that piece and play that to your advantage. But maybe I've watched too much Tony Vlachos. I don't know. So
Well, I'll say this, and
yeah,
we're definitely going to get to it when we're talking about Rome and the decision that he made. Like
yeah,
in the present day of Survivor, I think that having a 1 day idol is actually more powerful than having a sort of limitless idol that's good until the final five.
Yes.
Why? Because it actually forces you to use it, and it forces you to think, hey, is someone possibly coming after me here? Like,
right, right.
and check it out. Even if not, I can use it and I'll find out. I'll find out when I get my votes. And so I again, I want to wait till the Rome conversation to talk about this,
Sure,
but
yeah.
I think that even someone like Sam, he ends up getting it just for the one tribal, which I've seen some discourse online about, like, he's so well positioned, he should have gone for 3, he should have gone until final 5, and I actually don't think so. I think that the one tribal idol is just powerful enough. It's going to get you to the next round, the next cycle, and you can figure out how the ducks lay after things shuffle around.
Yeah. Yeah. I will
Love
say
that.
we should probably move on to the next item, but that's a great place to transition on. I want to read some of the comments in our live chat. Minnows letting me know Brad and Jeannie. Thank you, Minnows. Left it behind. Shannon Ricard then still. That's right. Minnows, wasn't last season 46 your first season you've ever watched? I love how much homework you did since then.
Right,
Uh,
right.
if Ollie was here, Ollie would say, I think it was smart for Andy not to have the idol because he doesn't need that kind of target. He has a chance to lay low. Interesting, Ollie. Everyone, Ollie will be back next week on Got Something For You, but wish him a safe
Woo!
flight. And we hope to see him soon. Let's see. Also, oh, yes, Minnows. We will talk about this a little bit later in The Tribe Has Posted. And by the way, speaking of The Tribe Has Posted, we sort of got a unexpected special guest on Survivor Social this past week. So make sure you stick around to find out who that was and what insight they gave us about the challenge in particular. So we'll get to that in a second. And I want to say my biggest fear about going on Survivor is not being blindsided. It's getting back home and watching an episode where I'm searching for an idol only for the camera to see it and not me. That is like my biggest fear going into it. But speaking of idol finding, we see Sam and Annika. I have a question about this, Sifu.
Yeah, yeah.
So Sam does end up finding the idol, or finding the Beware advantage where Andy left it. But like it was him and Annika that were like, oh, let's go idol hunting together. But
Mm.
Sam didn't want Annika there. So were there ever experiences on your season where you were like, okay, I'll go idol hunting with someone that you really did not want knowing whether or not you were going to have an idol?
Sure, it was the opposite. I was babysat, several times. So I do, I did feel the unwantedness for sure because they didn't want me to get an idol. And so they would, D would sit on me, or Austin would follow, sit on me and follow me, and it would just be a lot. And then I knew if I found something, I would have to really, really play it off and conceal it as if I didn't, or throw a log there and walk away. Like try to figure out some marker there. But I feel like Sam in this moment got overwhelmed by the emotion. I mean, let's face it, when you're out there and you find something, like, or you get something, anything, even a reward, like those are honest reactions. It's not just like that's like it's a full body feeling that you found something and you know what it is as a fan and the power it has, and he couldn't have hid that. I mean, because he seems like he's a very reactionary individual. So I think he was like, you know what, she saw it, my reaction. I'm just gonna let her know what's up.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, I've seen a lot of conversation online about like what is the smarter thing to do? To find something and try to be the sly guy that's, putting it in their back pocket and then you get caught doing that, or do you just use it to be a bonding mechanism? And I think that Sam here gives us a masterclass on using an idol as a bonding mechanism, not once, not twice, it can be argued 4 times with every single person on his tribe, one by one by one. He finds it with Annika. He has Rachel help him with another part of it. He's bringing people in at all these different spots. And, as much as he might have wanted to hide it, I think that there is some value in using it as a means to get close to someone.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. But I also think that the issue is now he has to constantly be on 10 around these individuals. Seriously, even like if he was a loud snorer or he was, and they start getting irritated with him, like, I know about your idol, I'm irritated. Like, any small thing. I know that sounds funny, but it's like any small thing. And we saw it kind of with Sue. We're not there yet, but that has to be a lot of stress to tell everybody, and so that's why most people want to keep it to themselves. Not in this season, but most people want to keep it to themselves so they don't have to, throw that out there. And then once they've sensed that person that they want to connect to, they bring them in. That, I think, is the best way to utilize an idol, is to find it privately, kind of read the room for a little bit, and then bring an individual in, because you don't know who everyone is connected to. And so and we see that in this episode. Someone, he told me this and that, and then I got to go tell them, and he doesn't know that I told them, but he's going to go tell them anyways. And, it's like, it was a big runaround. And so keeping it secret has its benefits as much as telling. And I agree. I do.
I feel like we never see anyone keep it secret anymore. And it's so funny to me because I feel like in every preseason interview, all of the most cast members would say like, oh, the idol's my idol. No one's going to know about it. I'm not going to share it. But it feels like in this new era of Survivor, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, both of you, is it harder to get away with your own advantage in the game without anyone else knowing?
1,000%. So let me tell you, when I was going and looking for idols, I felt that the time I was gone was justified for the amount of wood I would bring back or supplies or whatever I found, water. I felt it was justified, but then Mama J would pull me aside because that was one of my greatest allies, but they didn't show much of it on 45, but it was. She would say, "Hey, Sifu, man, they're talking about you, and you go on those long walks." I'm like, "Long walks?" I thought I was gone for 15 minutes, but it turns out it was 45 to an hour sometimes. So I think it's Survivor has made it harder for the individual to find their own idol and not have to bring someone in. I think that is purposely designed to do that. You can do it on your own. I'm not saying they're forcing you. I'm saying they're making it to where they would like the pair to do this. And that brings in a more dynamic viewership from the fan, the contestant. That is what I think it's evolved to, and that's why we're seeing this more often.
Sifu, I think you hit the nail on the head, my friend. Yeah. I think that this is by design. This is not accidental. I think even just the emergence of the beware advantage as a whole, right? What does that mean? It means to obtain this idol in the first place, you have to do something extra. You have to put yourself at risk. How do you mitigate that risk? Letting other people know about it. Otherwise, you're getting found out without them hearing it from you. They are discovering it on their own, and in that case, then you really got problems. So yes, I think that the the new school Survivor is you need to have at least one person that you trust enough to literally help you obtain your Beware advantage. I mean, Gabe felt that, whether or not he did or did not, because with love, Sue did not do the best job, but he felt as though he needed to let Sue know so that she could be his lookout. Because in his mind, he thought, there was no way I can get away with this without a lookout. So I think back in the day, that wasn't the perspective,
at all.
You were able to find it on your own and keep it to yourself for the rest of the game without doing, the most wild things that could get you caught,
Yeah. And that's why I say it like that, because if you were to find that, I mean, imagine someone doing that all by themselves, and it's possible to do. But if we go back to 45, with what Austin had to do for one idol is crazy. I mean, he had to bring Drew in, he had to bring Dee in, Mama J, and that was so tough because there's so many layers. So if you just take them away, the 3 players outside of Austin, trying to see what he had to do, I mean, it would take 26 days,
and let me tell you, I think it's interesting. This whole thing kind of started on season 40. The crest of the, sort of the wave rolling over to the new era. Right. I mean, if you think about it, it was on Winners at War where they said, for this idol to be active, you need. I was gonna say, I definitely saw that and it got in my head. We gotta. Jake's here. we gotta. What's up, Jake? Welcome to the show. But it was on Survivor 40 that it was like, for your idol to be active, you need to tell someone. So I think that was where the idea of that started, and I think that ever since then, it's just increased in a more subtle fashion.
Yeah, and I agree with Amy here. Going to tribal without a vote and trying to explain that's a lot of pressure there too, especially if your alliance is counting on you for that vote. At least give them the time to prepare in the event that you do lose your vote and you are unable to get it back. So it's so interesting. I like this change in the game, but we see, and to your point, Phil, we saw Sam tell Sierra, and then he knew that Annika would tell Rachel, which it was a great edit. I love this edit. It was probably my favorite of the episode. Annika does tell Rachel, so Sam decides to go tell Rachel too, but it culminates in Sam getting the 1-day idol. And he's like, this is good enough. And honestly, because of how many people know, and we'll talk about this with Gabe's play at the end, a 1-day idol is enough. Like it's fine to me, especially with how many people know about it.
Yeah, at that point when everybody knows about it, a 1-day idol, and then you could use it as a tool eventually if you're that savvy. And Jake, you weren't. They didn't make you strip. You were just hot and took your clothes off because it was hot. It was hot on the island.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Always. Yeah.
So, I mean, we also see Andy tell Sam. He realizes that the advantage is gone. He's like, one of the girls might have it. So Sam puts on his best musical theater performance yet and reacts to it. But this was interesting because Sam ends up saying like, oh, this makes me trust Andy more, that he chose to come to me and tell me about this. But I was like, my thought is, but Andy didn't tell you that he found something earlier. So now that Andy is telling you after it's already gone, I'm like, how trustworthy is that? Do either of you see this differently than how I do?
Yeah, I mean, so you're saying that Andy went back and wouldn't have told anyone, potentially, found it, or didn't find it, just to clear that up.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, well, hey, man. Yeah, I get where you're coming from. That is a great point. Interesting. That's a thinker. I think it did. Okay, so what's funny to me is Andy in that moment, and this is why he's an anomaly, that was kind of a smart move to go to his number one and talk about it. So then maybe he could get some information. But I don't know if that is the intent or if that's just the reaction.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference. And so if it was the intent, man, that's great. That means you're letting him know that you're searching for idols and you found one potentially. And two, you're looking to get some information that he might have because he may have a deeper connection with the other people. So you see an evolution of Andy, I think, in that moment. It could be too deep, me thinking too deeply on that, but I think that's a piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, look, I personally think that this ended up being a good move for Andy. It's tough for me to straight up be like, Andy, perfect move, because this could have gone terribly.
Right.
It happened to go well because he told Sam, who ultimately is not threatened by him, understands that he said, I want to be his buoy while he is drowning. So he thinks that he's drowning, but he's happy to be there to help him out. You know what I mean? It ended up being okay. So I'm not gonna give him too much flack.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
this could have gone very, very wrong, and it could have just been another brick stacked against him, which is that's Survivor, and I think that that's what makes this game so great. It is simply all about how well you know the people playing around you, because in a lot of cases on Survivor, you don't have all the power for
No.
the decisions. It is do you understand the people that you're playing with enough to form power?
Risk and reward. But I think we should go and talk about another person who tried bringing someone in on their advantage find, and it did not go over so well, and that was Rome. I did not have the photo of Rome telling Teeny in the dark. It was a very interesting flashback, but
Yeah.
Rome told Teeny at night and showed Teeny where the advantage was hidden, and Teeny ends up taking Kashan to see it only for
That's so wild.
this
Genuinely,
That's so wild.
genuinely, one of the craziest scenes in Survivor history, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
just for Rome to come walking up behind, to have all three of them in the same shot is wild.
And what I
It's
wanted
just
for
wild.
Rome in that moment, when people are like on a sidewalk and they're walking slow and the music, like that's what I saw. I know it was fast, but I saw literally like, and he's just walking up, and it's just so funny because like in that moment he's so confident that he's caught them. I mean, he has caught them red-handed, but they have no clue, and so it kind of brings you back, like as a person, like what would I do? Like it put you in that situation. That's why I think it's such a good scene, because what would I do in Teeny's position or Rome's position? Like how would I respond? And honestly, the response was great. I mean, for what it could have been, that could have been a massive,
Right.
massive blow
Right.
up. And the response and from both teams, or sorry, not both teams, but both people,
Mhm.
was probably the best outcome that could have happened. So
Yeah. I like the way that you put that. I think you put that very delicately. It's like
yeah,
it is the best thing that could have happened, considering how bad this could have been for the both of them. And I think
exactly.
once again, I think it rings true to my last sort of statement. It's like a lot of times the complete power is out of your hands. You know what I mean? I think that
Yeah,
in a perfect world, both of these people would have wanted this to go differently. But given how the cards that were in their hands, I do think that this ended up being it ended up falling on a good side for both of them. Teeny
right.
tried to play it off, and I think that that is the really the best way that she could have dealt with this. And look, in another world, Rome could have blown up at this moment, but he kept his cool and he was like, yeah, for sure. That makes total sense. And we get the
Right.
confessional. We get the confessional of him saying, I don't think I can trust Teeny as much as I thought. That is exactly what you want to do. You cannot show all your cards. So kudos to the both of them.
Yeah, I in that game, your emotional intelligence has to be heightened, because the moment, I mean, and this is the funny part of the game, Rome, righteously so, could be mad and upset because, I mean, dude, I showed you this, like, what's going on? But
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter what you think as far as what he should feel, because if he did that, his perception of those two completely change. He's not
Yeah.
he's not well mannered, he's not chill, he's not calm. Like we can't bring this along with us. I know we
Mm-hmm.
were in the wrong, but like what else is he gonna blow up on? Like that's all
Mm-hmm.
it takes. So the way that he digested that information, I will also agree with Phil. This is probably one of the best moments in Survivor history as far as just something shocking. I mean, and it really is a small thing, but it is big as well. So I
But
mean,
yeah, and they always try to make us like I'm thinking of even in the last episode when Rome was doing the search and we saw the group like coming towards him and it was like, oh, are they going to catch him with the advantage or the key or whatever? But first of all, I want to point out the hypocrisy here, which is that Rome in the last episode, people were giving Rome such a hard time for how sloppy they perceived his searching was, which it kind of was, but this really takes the cake in terms of sloppiness and in terms of actually being at the advantage with someone else and getting caught. So it was
Yes.
it was a delicious moment,
yeah.
but I felt so bad. I mean, you all know I love Rome. So this just made me feel sad. I was like, he trusted you, team.
Can I
I
tell you
know.
something? I am obsessed with Rome. I
Yeah.
love Rome, and I think in like a wild, wicked world, right? I think to be at the least bit self aware, you have to be able to look at a contestant not doing fantastic and go, yeah, I get to myself playing a little bit like them. And
Right.
it doesn't need to be Rome. It could be any version, any version of someone not playing so well. Maybe your person is Andy. For me,
Right.
I don't think that in any world I would go out there and be an Andy with love. However, I can 1,000,000% see myself being a Rome by complete accident. And so seeing him play, be this bravado driven, overly gregarious individual, like, yes, right there.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
love, like,
I'm glad
with
you
love to
showed me.
myself. I have made people feel this way by accident because I'm sitting there like, yeah, 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 yapping my head off, not realizing that I'm being totally annoying, and that seems to be what Rome is up to. However, look, this is just the truth. I
Right.
think that it is a personality like Rome can become endearing with more time. And I really think that if he sticks around for longer, but then again, I don't know. Sifu's already laughing at me. If you're living with it, maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe I'm completely wrong. 24 hours with a robe could be tough. What do you
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
Sifu? Keep it
No, I
real. Keep it
agree.
real.
I agree to your point. But it's living out there. It's different.
Right.
So it's funny. I snore. When I went out there, when I left, I didn't snore because I was 30 pounds lighter. So all that husk was gone. But and Mama J would wake me up every night when I snored by hitting me, by pushing me. And so I consciously worked on like being quiet because
Mm.
and trying to like calm my breath and breathe deeper and not snore as much. And it's so funny because none of that would ever make it to the show. And you would hear things like this from many other players of what they tried to do or noticed or heard. But it is all a part of the world that we're in that game. And I know I said snoring like earlier too, so it's funny. But any tick or even if you're talking too much, like any of that is a part of the currency of your personality in this game. So yeah, it will get under your skin to the point where you will say to someone jokingly, we should just vote them out for and even that just planted a seed in your head. It's like, maybe we should, or no, I think that, but now they're talking about you. And so, yeah, you have to be hyper focused on how you're affecting others. So I can't 100% agree, but then I can't also disagree. Yeah.
Mhm.
With what you
Well,
said.
yeah, I mean, to your point, Sifu, I forget what season it was, but someone was voted out because they said they got a good night's sleep. So, it is possible for these little
It
things. And
is.
speaking of getting a good night's sleep, Sue and Tiana were not getting a good days of sleep. And okay, I was on Survivor Social on Thursday, and I did say something like Sue and Tiana could have moved. I did also say that TK and Kyle could have moved as well. My whole point was that it's a big beach, and they could have separated if they needed to. But this is Seafood. To your point, I think that this was like the first of TK's like downfall in a sense, this episode that we saw. So it was
Right.
planting the evidence, especially because they were really at the end of the episode when it came to Tiana, it really became like strategy versus emotion is what I
Right.
got from the
Right.
storyline.
Yeah, Matt. Let me ask you something. So, or actually, I'll state it. Um, if they moved, that could be perceived to TK as they're oh crap, I annoyed them, or quite the other, like so. Yeah, it does seem like I should move, but if I get up and move and go lay down somewhere else, now if they got up and moved and walked into the camp, then they're just up for the day. But if they like got up and then went like 50 feet down just to lay down in the same spot, one, oh, now they're talking to each other. They just don't want us to hear. And two, I annoyed them, or something to that effect, right? And I have to go mend that. I have to figure that out. And so now it's just, yeah, that's the way I
I'm
perceive that.
I didn't think about
I
it
am
that way.
so yeah. I was gonna say I am so thankful that you're bringing that up because I was under the same sort of mindset as Matthew, where I'm like, so many things could have happened differently here. Why did they all choose to stick around each other like this? It makes no sense.
Yeah.
But you're right, Sifu. I think that's that disconnect, right?
Yeah.
Because for us, it's like, oh, well, at a time like this, they haven't got a tribal, like, they're not playing still. Like, they have like a
Right.
moment of just sort of human moments, but it's like, even in
All
your human
game.
moments out there, you're still halfway playing. And I think
Right.
that is the stress that comes with this game because you're right. You could be doing something that is actually like homogenous for a like for the group, but at the end of the day,
Right.
it can so easily be perceived as like, oh, well, you don't want to be around me, then why don't
So
let me send you right home.
yeah. So let me tell you a little story from 45, very short. So so Katora, when we merged, I met her and we vibed so hard. We actually were gonna start an alliance called the Saint Lunatics because we're both from we're both from St. Louis and area, and we get to talking, hanging out. We're talking to everybody else, and we go on a couple of walks, and and all that. And then I ask her, "Hey, how do you spell your name?" Just out of pure curiosity, and she brings it up in tribal and says, "Even Sifu asked me how to spell my name." And to me, in my head, I'm like, "Oh, I've never spelled a name called Couture. Like, I don't even know how you would even spell that." But she's thinking parchment. She's thinking, how's he gonna write my name? Not even a thought. So in my head, when she said that at tribal, I'll never ask that question again. It's like, and it's something as simple as that, and that's why I had that perception of like, whoa, they could have just moved. Like, they really can't. They have to just like drown in it. It's essentially because one moment like that can put eyes on me. So even Couture saying my name at tribal, you don't want your name said at tribal, not in that regard anyways. And so even that,
Right.
now more eyes are on Sifu in 45. And so I was like, oh, well, I just asked you a question and I wasn't thinking about it. So you have to be on emotional intelligence, has to be on 10, which it won't be. And I'm just saying, personal experience, it will not be. It'll be a fluctuating scale.
Wow. See, it's the
Yeah.
things you don't think about. It's so interesting.
Yeah.
No. And I do have to ask the question because we should get to the challenge pretty soon and
Yeah.
we'll take
Yeah.
a quick commercial break. I don't have any
Mhm.
photos of Gabe, but I felt that this was a very heavy Gabe
Huh.
playing episode. I couldn't find screenshots. He is in this frame. He's talking to
Sure.
Caroline here.
Hmm.
But I chose this frame of Caroline because this is when so Gabe is reiterating he feels good with Sue. They're in an alliance, and he's like, Caroline, we should also work together. And I thought Caroline's reaction was really interesting to me because she was hesitant and kind of voiced that when it came to working with Gabe. And I did not think this was a good move from Caroline. Like, I appreciate the honesty, but
Yeah.
something about it made me feel like, oh, I fear that she may be too hesitant when it comes to who she's going to work with or too untrusting. That's what I got from it. But then it changed because he showed her the idol and she said, "Oh, maybe I can trust him." So I don't know if you perceived either of you perceived this in a different way than I did, but I worry for Caroline.
Go
Yeah,
ahead,
it's
Phil. Yeah.
definitely giving. it's definitely giving Emily Flippin. And look, I'm not. That is not a unique thought. I think a lot of people have been saying that about her. A lot of people have been saying that it's giving Emily Flippin. She's like very, very comfortable being upfront about how she's feeling about people. And I think that, it is very typical for humans to like feel very uncomfortable being honest when they know that the honest thought is not complimentary or
Right.
flattering. And I think that it is similarly, I think it's a good thing that she did this with Gabe, because I think that there are a lot of other people that would be like very, very wigged out by her response. So I guess what I'm saying is, Matthew, I fully agree with you. I do not think that that is usually the proper response to someone trying to make an alliance with you. But I think that she got very lucky, because I think Gabe is someone that is not going to make a huge deal out of it. And he, frankly, it was the reason why he showed her the item. So,
huge risk to show her the idol too there after
Very
getting that
huge.
sort of response. I would have been really
Huge.
scared to do that.
Yeah, that's a scary moment for sure. Yeah, I would say that in that moment, Gabe played the best he could. I mean, he adapted and flowed into, hey, well, I'm seeing this resistance. Let me kind of like bring you in a little bit more. That's why Survivor is a perfect microcosm of the world, because if we both, if all of us were going to a job interview tomorrow, and they were like, and we walk up and they're like, hey, we don't really have money, but we got some work. We're like, huh? But then, then they show us, oh, just kidding. I have, here's your money here. And now we change. Our eyes become, bright eyed and bushy. We're like, oh, okay, there it is. He realized in that moment she was seeing him as someone I don't want to work with, someone I just don't care about much. And then he realized
Yeah.
that the currency he had was the idol. He could have said, anything and be like, let's just go our separate ways, but he decided to flow with it. I think Gabe is, I don't want to jinx him, but I think he's going far. I think he is. At least past the merge.
I think too.
Yeah.
Sifu, that was a wild comparison, but I really liked it. That was
I love
good.
it. I love it. I love
All
it.
right. We are going to talk about the immunity challenge in just a moment, but first, a quick break with Todd Herzog.
What's up, guys? I'm Todd Herzog, the winner of Survivor China, and I am here with Survivor Now podcast, the best source for Survivor information, to show off what I do for a living. So I make custom Funko Pops. If you haven't seen or heard, you can check it out on Instagram at Todd's Pop Shop, or you can message me, toddspopshop@gmail.com, to order your own. And if you mention this podcast, you will get $10 off and a free torch. So it's pretty freaking awesome. I'm going to show you a few right now. We've got Troyzan here, Phil from The Amazing Race, JLP, host of Australian Survivor, and look, little Charlie. Anybody you could possibly imagine or want yourself playing an LRG or an ORG, or just with your loved one or family or pets or anything like that, shoot me a message. I'm happy to make it. You also have the chance to win a free custom pop if you sign up for Survivor Now Podcast Fantasy League. So it's pretty awesome. And it's fun. Like, who doesn't want to be a part of that? So yeah, hit me up, get your custom pops. It's great holiday gifts, great birthday gifts. We got a new season of Survivor right around the corner. I'm excited. I'm sure you're excited. Let's get this going.
All right, we are back, and let's talk about this moment right here. It's the immunity challenge. Everything's going great, but look at Rachel in the background. I did not catch just how obvious she was being, because they later cut to the close-up of her, this one, and then of her putting the rice in her pocket. But it was so wild to see her just like over it, just taking the rice out like that.
So
what did you think? I was gonna say, I want to know. I want to know what you think about this, Sifu, because there's been sort of a split jury.
Well, first off, I believe that she tried raw rice and just didn't show. They just didn't show that. So, but as far as the split jury, yeah, I'm for it, man. I really am. Jeff always says to push it. Don't ask. It's pretty much the rules. If you ask, hey, can I take this? They're going to say no. If you do it, you might go home with some rice. I mean, we're honestly starving in this new era. And earlier in the show, I said I lost 30 pounds in 3 weeks. Think about that. 3 weeks.
Mm.
People lose 30 pounds in 9 months, 6 months just on a fitness program. And I lost it in 3 weeks from not eating, And so what's interesting is from the player standpoint, man, I would do it. And a lot of players would do it. And some players have done it in the past, and they just didn't show it because they were smart, and didn't do it right in front of the camera. But I think it was a great move. I do think it was a smart move for her to try something. And what a cool way to show it. What a cool way to show it on the show. I think that's where Survivor is evolving too. It's like it's showing the stuff where people are taking risk. And I can also see the other half. I really can. I can see the other half. It would be unfair if Jeff was like, "Hey, it's okay. You can take it." Because what do you think would happen next? Every single player is putting rice in their pants, their shoes, their bras, whatever. That's just how it's going to go. So I'm for it, but I understand why Jeff didn't allow it.
I'm for it. I think that they
Yeah.
should have been able to take the rice. But like I said, on Survivor Social, we did get confirmation that a tribe did ask if they were allowed to take the rice. We didn't get the answer that they got, but we
Sure.
could assume it was a no.
It's a no.
Yeah, of course. But I thought it was, I don't know. Because it was a no and because,
Yeah.
they weren't allowed to, I understand this moment. Rachel did have to give up the rice. If it was a different world and they didn't say anything, I would be like, just let them have it,
Right.
especially because
Right.
what are they going to do with the rice now?
Yeah,
Eat it raw.
I think, right. I think it becomes a slippery slope. Like, I do understand why, Jeff had to draw the line. I think that, and look, I don't want to come across as like the Scrooge, but I can see in the future, I mean, they do it a lot, right? Like those, the sandbags they shoot. I mean, like, I don't know, like if they put rice in there, is someone going to start, cutting it open with a stick and trying to get rice? Are people going to be focusing more on grabbing little bits of food where they can versus winning a challenge? I think that is the
Risk
fear.
versus reward.
Right.
Risk first reward, sure.
Yeah.
I just understand it being a slippery slope. I mean, look, it's very similar to like, I mean, to bring it up again, the Liz crossing over into into Kinsey's lane to help her beat Maria in that final challenge, where the reason why people were upset with that, like the reason why, also speaking for myself, the reason why I was upset with that was because like the slippery slope, like, if that was allowed, how much can you retroactively go back to other challenges and completely break Survivor and be like,
Right.
oh, well, if this person just jumped into the other person's lane and helped them finish faster, there'd be a whole different winner for that season and this season and the next. And I think that, I just think it becomes tough. And I see Minnows chirping me in the chat there. I'm sorry, Minnows. I don't agree, but I think that's what becomes tough, And so I think that this rice thing becomes a similar sort of conversation where it's like, what is the slippery slope if we allow this one time? Are people going to be coming in the future and breaking the game? That's just the fear that I understand.
If I'm standing on the mat and I'm not on her tribe, I'm looking over and saying that's a player. So it changes my perspective of her. From a player standpoint, I'm like, wow, she's willing. That's kind of risky, and she's willing to take those risks. So I might want to work with her, or she might be someone that's really going to put themselves out there in a way that we might need or might not need. But then you get the reactions from other players, and that's what I like too. Try it, see if it works, but you also can gain rapport, in a certain way.
Yeah, and you know what? I would try to pitch it as I just wanted more food for all of us. I would pitch it in that way. Minnows, it's so funny that you said this because I really thought that she found an advantage in that clip of her putting it into her pocket. I thought it was an advantage, but it wasn't. And yes, Minnows, I get what you're saying. We may not like it, but it was allowed for Liz to help Kenzie in the moment, and maybe that rule has changed moving forward. But then we get sort of the climax of the episode, or a turning point when it comes to Tiana and TK, which is,
oh boy,
I know, Jeff says there's a lot of smiles on the mat, and I have to say I didn't hear this the first time I watched it, but Tiana did say it's fake as soon as Jeff said that, and then gave her response to it. But then we do have TK give his opinion on the smiles on the mat.
Man.
TK.
TK.
my fellow brown brother. I cannot believe that he said this. It is like, I think that TK, maybe more than anyone else on this tribe, was sitting pretty. And I even think, honestly, and yes, there was obviously, he had annoyed Sue at the, the nap on the beach. I don't think that was enough to have him voted off at the end of this. I think that this conversation here sealed his fate. And I just, there was something about being a competitor and showing it and being comfortable showing it. And I understand that. But I also think that there is a time and a place. And I just think that this was one of the most misguided decisions that he could have made in his time being there, period.
Yeah.
And he went for it. And it disappointed me, because I really did like TK after the first episode, despite him winning out over Asia. I was feeling TK, but this was just a bad move. I mean, it was. What do you think, Sifu?
I agree. I mean, in my martial arts background, we work on destroying what we call the ego. And everybody has it. Doesn't matter who you are. Everybody has ego. And let's not have a negative connotation to that. Ego can be a very good thing. Proud of your accomplishments. Proud of your Survivor podcast. It's amazing, and I'm grateful to be a part of. Whatever, it's all a part of our ego. And I think in this moment, he was so emotional. His ego shot to the highest degree. His lack of self-awareness shot up, and he wasn't able to portray the difference between me talking about, like if he was an athlete on a football field, he could say what he just said and be fine. It would work out perfectly. And other guys would be like, you know what? You're right, man. That's how it should be. But in this moment, there's such divided emotional people, and they just lost, and they're not feeling great. His lack of self-awareness and his ego just weren't there. He wasn't able to mask that for this moment. And I thought it was wild for him to speak out in that aggressive manner, I don't care that it was an aggressive manner personally. I just care about what he said, how it's attacking others. Or at least they perceived it as that, I don't think it was.
Because go ahead, Matthew.
No, I was just saying, in my rewatch of it, it did seem like it didn't feel like he called out Tiana, who I know the episode focused on Tiana's reaction to it, especially. It did sound like he was saying, it disappoints me hearing that there are smiles on the mat in general. So it was just, it was very interesting. And I agree with Sifu, your point about if this was any other sport, where there's not a vote at the end of it, I could see this reaction. Like, I can understand this sort of mentality when it comes to losing. There's also the other side that we see from Kyle later on, where Kyle said, in I forget what sport he said he played, but he went out on the field after, and win or lose, you shake the other team's hand and move on. So it was actually very interesting to see those two mindsets when it comes to competition.
Yeah.
And I just go ahead, Sifu.
No, I was just gonna say, that's the beautiful part of Survivor is the viewer that's never been in cleats won't understand. You know what I mean? From his perspective, the viewer that's never had that last second ball that you need to make and you didn't make it, now you let the whole team down, they won't understand. So now they don't even see from the perspective that we're talking about, and they're like, TK, that was stupid. I can give some sympathy where his anger was, and I understand. Hey, this is not a time to smile. We need to be reviewing what we did and going back to the drawing board. I get it, but it's the delivery that was just off for him, and really sealed his, it was the last nail in the coffin, I think. But
Yeah, the other reason why I wish I didn't let you go there, Sifu, is because that was my exact point. I was literally just going to say that is what makes Survivor such a good game, right? It is a microcosm of real life, and in this setting, you do have someone like TK who is a former athlete. I mean, Asia said it herself. The dude's built like he could be in the NFL right now. I mean, this guy is such a competitor in his personal life, that he's out there acting like a competitor. And to your point, Sifu, I've been on sports teams myself. I am fully aware of this sort of mindset, and on a field, it's a lot easier to take than on a game of Survivor. And I think that, but he has to understand that he is not playing with a team full of athletes. He's playing with a team full of humans with their own stories and their own histories. And for what it's worth, there is also a storied history of just, I mean, not to get into some deep theoretical history. It's just, I just think that it is a conflict of interest here, and I think that is what makes this. That's what makes this scene, honestly, as disappointing as it was for me, being a TK fan, wanting to see him go far. I do think that it's what makes this game so great. It's different people valuing different things. In this moment, he was valuing, hey, no smiles. Let's get a serious face on. This should never happen again, and let's do what we can to make sure it never happens again. And in this case, in this setting, there were other people, frankly, Tiana, that felt like he was coming at her directly. To your point, Matthew, frankly, he wasn't. So it's just, this was simply a giant miscommunication, and I think it was a very human moment, which is what made it fascinating to watch.
And this is why there's 47 seasons of this show, right?
True.
Yeah, because of what we're doing in this moment. I mean, there's so much to unpack, and that's the beauty of this show. Like, you can't just watch it and then you're done. It's like you think about this for weeks into the next, or sorry, not weeks, into the next episode, so you can get an explanation or figure it out. But that's what's beautiful about this show is you are unpacking each individual person, and you see a little bit of you or someone in each person, or some sort of perspective that you've dealt with, and you're relating it to it. And think of millions of people watching this doing the same thing. That's why I love Survivor. Anyways, that's all. I'm just plugging out, plugging Survivor there.
Honestly, I love seeing human moments like this on this show. It's what keeps it interesting. Like, I don't want to see just people who are just so game focused all the time. Like, sometimes I do. I like the strategy, but I do like to see the human aspect too. And he does try remedying things with Tiana, but I did not like his approach to this also, because Phil.
No. I was going to piggyback on your point that you're making. I was just going to say that, yes, we see him try to remedy things, but remember, I think the reason why this goes poorly, this was not his idea. He did not go back to camp going, oh, I want to remedy things. I really made her feel bad. This was a middleman going, hey, brother, I think that you should really mend things. Him saying, what are you talking about? No, I don't think that I do need to. And the middleman going, no, I really think that you ought to, please. And that's why this went poorly, because it was not of his own interest. I think if it was of his own interest, this would have gone a lot better. And frankly, I think that with that happening, TK doesn't go home here. I think that TK just had a complete misconception of how safe, or frankly, how unsafe he could have been.
Right.
And clearly,
in his mind, he was working with Tiana, Kyle, and Gabe. That was the four, and they were working together. So that's where he's at. And to your point, Phil, the thing that also got me about this was, I think, hearing him say to Tiana, you should have come to me if you had the problem. You shouldn't have told other people that you were feeling this way. I think in the realm of remedying things, that approach also wasn't the best in my eyes.
It wasn't. Ugh.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's interesting because if you boil it down to the human moments, like TK's a brother. That's how he talks. He probably talks very direct, that's just what he does his whole life. And we get, I get it and I understand it, but it's so funny because in the moment of Survivor, that does not go well, because Tiana, she's able to digest and maybe take away the face reaction and be like, I get your energy. I don't like it, but I'm going to make sure you're getting what you need from me. putting on that face. And that's why this is a great moment, because you can see the dynamic of her and Kyle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Minos, tell me more about your point here. What was
I could extrapolate on that a little bit.
yeah.
TK, I also binge exit interviews of TK, mostly because for a guy saying there should be no smiles if we're losing, I wanted to see if he was smiling on these exit interviews. But and I'm happy to report he was actually a very good sport about it after the fact.
Yeah.
However, what TK is saying is he was talking in an exit interview about the fact that Tiana deciding to flip to the other side was actually far more complex than they showed in the episode.
Mm-hmm.
There was essentially there was some sort of moment where TK apologized to Gabe about something. I actually can't remember exactly what it was. So Menno, if you could help me with that, that'd be great. But it doesn't. Regardless, the point is that TK had apologized to Gabe, and so to Tiana, this bit that much more because she was like, "You're not even in an alliance with him. You're supposed to be in an alliance with me, and you are refusing to apologize to me. So seeing you apologize to Gabe makes me think that something might be up.
Right.
You might be closer with the guys than you're letting on, and it behooves me not to think twice about the decision that I'm making." So it's like all things in Sifu, I'm sure you know this firsthand.
Yeah.
It is always more complex than it shows in the edit, despite them having 90 minutes. It's just not enough time.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's what it was. Yes. So yes, there's a whole extra deal that TK talked about Gabe being very, very overbearing in the challenge, and he kind of felt like he wanted to be the star of this moment. There's just a lot. So I guess all this said, y'all watch the exit interviews. They teach you a lot.
The exit interviews are very informative, and I think I don't have the image of this, and I wish I did, but it was great also seeing Sue work Tiana in the way where I like seeing Sue make this decision where she said, if I go to Tiana and I say, me, Gabe, and Caroline are voting out TK, are you in or not? Tiana would be like, what am I, your number 4? And like, no, she's already in a firmer group over here on this side of the beach. So I liked Sue's approach where she said, let me make it, it's, we girls got to stick together and basically say like, Caroline and I are feeling iffy. Like maybe we should do this. And I liked that sort of reframing. And I talked about that on Survivor Social as well, but it was very interesting. And then, the big question going into Tribal Council is, will Tiana flip or not?
Yeah. And let me tell you, I despite the amount of confessionals that were shown to us of her being like, look, I don't need to love TK outside of this. I don't think we need to be a personality match, but I'm going with it. I'm playing based on game. I don't know what it was. I had a feeling that she was going to flip. I really did. Yeah. And I think that maybe it's because I understand, honestly, how painful it feels to just like have someone really perform as though they don't care about what you're feeling. And I think that that is, TK, whether he meant to or not, that's really what it came across as. It came across as like, hey, dude, like, I don't feel like I need to apologize to you. And I think that this is like this is the second vote of the entire season. Like you're gonna have to, if you are saddling your wagon to this guy, you're gonna have to be with him for a whole lot longer. And I just think that it seems too daunting. You know, what did you think, Sifu?
Well, TK wouldn't have been my vote out. I would have stomached whatever I had to stomach because of the physical challenges. And
yes.
I mean, I'm being real. It's going to get worse. Like the challenges get harder, different. They're challenging your endurance, your mental, your physical, your spiritual, and someone that has been through it in a different, field with athletic things, they're going to, like, until their body gives out or whatever, until they collapse, they're going to give it 110%. So I wouldn't have wanted to lose that. I would have tried to build like, hey, I know he's kind of hard to deal with or whatever you're thinking, but we need to keep him right now so we can make it to merge, get him out at merge or whatever the plan might be. But I would have really rallied for TK. And that's just me. I don't.
Sifu, I
Yeah.
have to agree. TK was not my choice to vote out here. If I was on
Yeah.
the tribe,
Yeah.
granted, I'm playing from the couch, so
Sure.
I can see things that no one can, but I think I would have made a move to go against Kyle instead because I love Kyle. I want Kyle
That's
in this
interesting.
game. As a fan, I love Kyle, but I just feel like Kyle may be able to become a number to different people at any opportunity because I know that he is really well loved. And I feel like I also want TK still in the game to help us with these challenges.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
you know, that was my whole thing, which is like now Kyle is the one who's on the out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think if I was anyone outside of Sue, I'm keeping TK. Sue makes complete sense. If someone is directly going for you, it leaves you no option, really.
Yeah.
So for Sue, it made a ton of sense. For just about everyone else, also, I'm with Amy. Leave Kyle's name out of your mouth.
I love
Matthew.
him.
Yeah, how about you watch it? How about you watch it, brother? All right, I'm with Amy. I didn't like that either.
No.
What?
I saw Phil biting his
Stop
tongue. And he feels like, yeah.
Yeah, Kyle. What the heck? No, I like Kyle.
Gotta play the game.
But I'm gonna say, Matthew, I do actually agree with you. There's something to be said about right. So like the person who you feel you could never really bond yourself to. For Sue, that is TK. That's always going to be someone that you have on your mind. But what's more dangerous? The person that you can never saddle yourself to, or the person that is so amenable and so likable and so widely digestible that they can be picked up by just about anyone? I see where you're coming from, Matt.
Right. No, that's a great. That is a great point on that, and it's not going to be taken well by people, but it is.
I'm sorry, Amy.
It is a good point.
I was gonna say you got a little taste of the Kyle army right there.
Yeah,
Matthew.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Keep bringing it on. I thought that, but in this moment, you know, at Tribal Council, we do get the like TK versus Sue discussion going on. I mean, you know, it's pretty typical, like how we're gonna get the votes on different people. But then we get the first idol play of Survivor 47, and Gabe plays the idol on himself, which I agree with. I understand why people may be giving him a hard time. He didn't have to play it, blah 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 blah. I get this move because he had an idol that everyone sitting there knew about. So what good does it really do him?
I want to see what Sifu has to say about this first before I open my big mouth. Go ahead, Sifu. What's your thought?
No. I mean, that was the one. No, that he had the 3 idol, right? No, he had the
3-day idol. Yeah,
because it could have been good for 3 days. So keep that in mind as you give your answer.
Yeah, that changed. Yeah, that did change it for me after I had realized that I had thought it was. He should have been sitting pretty in a good position to understand. Again, you don't know if you are, but there is an understanding of you are in a core alliance or connection. So I feel like he was pretty connected, but you never know what was said in between to make him feel a little shaky. And him playing it on himself, I can respect. It's better than it going home with him. You know, in 46, which happened way too much. He did, though, lose an opportunity and a chance to make a pretty big move here, which, again, may be too early. So, I've been seeing this, he should have did this, played it on Sue, blah, blah. But it's like, you know, if you do these big moves early and you do all this stuff, you begin just to be a big target, and then you're fighting that off the whole time until you hit merge. So, I don't know. One, he plays it early. I'm not a big fan of, and 2, it was a 3-day idol. I think he could have really taken that and made something out of it. So I'm not a big fan of it.
Yeah. First of all, Minnow with the stats. First real idol play since December 2023. My friend. Oh my gosh, I'm so impressed. Sifu, I am much like you. I am like. Sitting on, I'm sitting on that fence, and I think it's because like Matt, I do in ways I see what you're thinking. You know what I mean? It's like, why not protect yourself? Minnows, I even hear you. Protect yourself against the rock draw, but with love to Gabe. And honestly,
As being a chokehold too, Minnows.
Yeah, the show has been a chokehold too. But I mean, with respect to Gabe, I don't think that he was thinking about it that far about protecting against the rock draw. What I think that he was thinking was more along the lines of what you were saying, Sifu, is like at a certain point you get it. There is a vibe when you are in the crowd. There is a vibe when you are not, and I think that, and it's probably easy to say, well, Gabe, you should have known that you were in the in crowd, dude. Like you weren't even getting a single vote. But what I think makes this different is that this is literally this tribe's first tribal together, and so I think that like because of that, I am a little bit swayed to agree with Matt. I'm happy that he played it here, and he ought to have played it because yeah, it's just too early, right? Like God forbid, like all it takes at like, you know, far down the line, you have to do a whole lot more to convince someone to vote off someone else, right? Because two people could be paired from the start of the game, even from the start of merge, and it takes a lot of convincing to be like, hey, I really think that you should go against your ally here. But for your first tribal council, it could be as easy as a fly line right before tribal. It could be something so insignificant for someone to completely flip. So, I do think it's probably best that even though he didn't catch any votes and he really used it for naught, that he guaranteed himself another day in this game.
Yes, and
he will get
the
the respect for doing that for sure.
Yes, yeah. And I will say, playing it on Sue. What does that tell everyone about who he's working with, who he's willing to play an idol for? I love this. True. Also, Gabe told Caroline, who he sussed out wasn't like 100%. That's why he had to show her the idol. And to have everyone turn when Jeff asked the questions and look at you, knowing that you have the idol, I'm just like, sorry, got to play it. Like it's just one of those things. Don't care win or lose. But as we know, he did not get any votes, and instead we do say goodbye to TK. Tiana did flip, and TK's torch is snuffed.
Right,
and his survivor dream disappeared.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've talked enough about TK during the episode, but I am curious to see. Yeah, Phil.
Oh no! I was following along.
Okay. I'm curious to see what the rest of the tribe has said in our next segment called "The Tribe Has Posted." Okay, look at our special guest from Survivor Social. Look at that bottom lower third where the comments pop up.
Wow!
Someone gave us.
Is that Rome? Okay.
It was Rome. Rome joined the live chat of Survivor Social and did confirm that Lavo asked if they could take the rice. This is about the rice pre-challenge. So that was very interesting. That again goes to like I like the point of Sifu. If you want to take the rice, don't ask about the rice. Just leave it be. So very interesting there. Then we have Rome. I love this photo. He looks so great. The feeling when you win and your tribe loves you. Very funny. And then it happened. Yellow tribe has won immunity, which I have to say, I found it funny that Jeff was like, oh, they finally won something. I was like, didn't they win the first ever challenge on this season?
I guess that's true.
Yeah,
I guess it's true.
He's just used to the yellow, man. He's used to the Lulu,
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
And then we have just a couple more. Knowing this fact was the entire reason we searched that tree. So, Minnows, to your point, Charlie tweeted about how they put the Beware advantage where Jem put the fake one. And I think that is really clever. So, future Survivor players, be paying attention to where castaways hide their fake clues, because I think that gives production an idea of where to put them next time. I think the best people who know the hiding spots of the island are the players themselves. Sifu, would you agree?
I agree. Quick point. I got a chance to hang out with Charlie a few weeks ago, and he's a phenomenal individual. Love that man. Just
hey.
Yeah.
Charlie
Shout out to Charlie. You're awesome.
Yeah.
And definitely a big Taylor Swift fan. Not played up at all.
It wasn't for show.
At all. No one can name 3,000 songs, and
also, not to mention, he went to Harvard, correct?
Yeah.
Shout
He's a
out
smart
Boston.
individual.
Shout out Boston colleges. Not Boston College per se, just Boston colleges. And I almost said not Boston colleges, Boston universities, and there would have been the same confusion. Matthew and I went to college in Boston, so there we go.
There you go.
There's that connection. And I met Charlie at the Survivor 46 finale, and just one sweetest guy.
Yeah,
So absolutely agree.
Yeah.
And then I think there's one more. Okay, just some Instagram stories. So those exit interviews we already mentioned, they are important. They do provide a lot more context of what we do not see during the edited episode. So make sure you go check out TK's to find out what more happened behind the scenes. And then just a little fun one. Someone did a fan drawing and it included Tiana rolling her eyes. And Tiana just commented on that in that Instagram post. So that was a little bit of what was happening online. But with that, I mean, we just covered everything in this episode.
Everything.
An hour and a half to cover the hour and a half episode. Love the 90 minutes.
Love it.
Really quickly, Sifu, thank you so much for being here with Phil and I.
Thank you guys. Yeah, I do. No, I appreciate it. I love the Survivor world. Survivor has quite literally changed my life. And, you know, the alums, the family, the fans, you know, everything has just been great. And I can't wait. I cannot wait to be on 50. So I'll see you guys there.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it.
Confirmed.
They're confirmed. Allegedly. No.
allegedly.
Yeah,
Sifu, we did not talk about this ahead of time. So apologies if I'm putting you on the spot here. Could you play us out?
Next time.
Yes.
I don't.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
I don't have it all hooked up. That would be too cool. Yeah.
We should have asked you to come up with a song for us.
I can. You know, I might be in tangent. I might be able to come up with a theme song. Who knows?
There you go. I love it.
Yeah, that could be fun. Well, Sifu, just to reiterate again, thank you so much. I think that, I mean, we knew you were a blast on the island. I think that you are even more, if you can believe it, even more of a blast in person. So thank you so much. This has been so much fun. Truly.
I appreciate you guys.
We appreciate you. It really has. And I want to thank everyone who joined us, who stayed with us for this time during our live stream. As always, we live stream every Saturday at 3 p.m. 12 p.m. and 12 p.m. noon, 12 p.m. Pacific. And I just want to thank everyone who participated in the live chat today, Amy, Minnows, everyone else who was in there. We appreciate you all so much for that. With that, we are going to end today's episode, and we will see you all next week to discuss episode 3 of Survivor 47.